In 1973, I founded Interface Incorporated. And 35 years later, it's the world leader in modular carpet, primarily for commercial and institutional interiors, but also for the home. We do business in 110 countries and produce on 4 continents. In 1994, our company was already 21 years old and very successful. But we began to hear a question we'd never heard before from our customers, especially interior designers, asking, what's your company doing for the environment? A question for which we had no good answers. So we set out to get some answers, and we convened a task force and brought people from our businesses around the world to come together to see what we were doing. And the organizers of the task force insisted that I should make the opening speech and launch this task force with my environmental vision. I didn't have an environmental vision. I didn't want to make that speech. I drug my feet. I hemmed and hawed. They stayed on my case. Finally, I relented, and the date was set, August 31, 1994. Come the middle of August, I have not a clue as to what to say. I cannot get beyond we obey the law. Comply. And at that propitious moment, Paul Hawkins' book, The Ecology of Commerce, landed on my desk. I picked it up without any idea who he was or what the book was about and began just to thumb it. About page 19, I came to a chapter heading, The Death of Birth. Whoa, the death of birth. I began to read, and I quickly found out what the death of birth meant. Of course, it's species extinction, species disappearing into extinction, never ever again to experience the miracle of birth. And I read on, and within 20 pages, it was a spear in the chest. Hawkins made his central point in 3 parts. 1, the living systems, the life support systems of the earth, altogether the biosphere, is in decline. The biggest culprit in that decline is the linear take, make, waste industrial system, of which Interface is and was and will be an integral part. And then he makes his real telling point, and there's only one institution on earth that's large enough and powerful enough and pervasive enough and wealthy enough to really change all of that and change the course for humankind. And that's the same institution doing the damage, the institution of business and industry. I took that very, very personally, and it was an epiphanal experience, an eye-opening awakening for me, and I challenged that little group of people, only 16 or 17, to lead our company to sustainability. Today, 14 years later, the 4,000 people of Interface are in it together, climbing Mount Sustainability. That mountain that's very, very high, higher than Everest, to meet it, the point at the top, that for us symbolizes zero footprint, zero environmental impact. At this juncture, halfway from 1994 to our target date 2020, we're about halfway up the mountain. Greenhouse gas, net greenhouse gas emissions down to 82% in absolute tonnage, even as the company has grown by 2/3. So in terms of intensity, down by 93%. Yeah, so we're making progress. I have no way of knowing how many businesses we've influenced. But from the very beginning, 14 years ago, the real challenge to our little task force was not just to lead our company to sustainability, but to lead it beyond to restorative, so that we're putting back more than we take and doing good for the earth, not just no harm. And when we talked about how you do that, it sounds like perpetual motion at first. When we talked about how to do it, we said, you know, if we could really move in a credible, demonstrable, measurable way towards sustainability, we just might influence somebody else to move. And that's how we become restorative, not just by what we do, but by what we influence others to do as well. I think it's fair to say that Interface today is a restorative company, even though we're just roughly halfway to sustainable, you know, within our own 4 walls. In the beginning, it was almost exclusive of the environmental community, the choir. But the choir needed a pep talk. It really did. And I feel sure that what I had to say, an industrialist finally speaking their language, had a lot to do with, you know, re-energizing people who've been doing this in the trenches for years, a thankless task at that. But in more recent years, the audience is more and more and more business people as the business world is waking up, especially to global warming and the energy challenge that we have, not only the global warming challenge, but the security challenge and the dependence on the Middle East and all of the ramifications of the oil dependency that we have. The best indicator I have is the number of invitations I get to speak. I never seek an invitation, but they just keep finding me at the rate of 150 a year. And so there's a positive feedback loop there working. The more people hear you, the more invitations you get, the more. In this instance, my own people said this is a good conference because their customers here. And at the end of the day, this has to be good for business or it really won't fly. We call it doing well by doing good. And that's an interesting feedback loop itself. The more well we do in this, the more good we can do through influence. The more good we do, the more well we do through new customers. So there's a doing well by doing good. It's a new paradigm for business that says it really is smart and it's right to take care of nature and the earth.